A 3-day strike comes to an end as port companies and the Dockworkers Union reach a tentative contract deal. And hospitals across the country are facing a shortage of IV fluids in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Good morning. I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. Unionized dock workers have suspended their strike against more than a dozen ports on the east and Gulf coasts. They agreed on wage increases in a 6-year contract. This week, President Biden said some ocean carriers saw their profits grow by 800% during the pandemic. NPR's Andrea Hsu says the dock workers have been demanding a share.
The union had wanted 77% in raises over 6 years. The companies had offered close to 50%. The White House was working furiously behind the scenes, talking to the companies, talking to the union, trying to get them back to the table. And it appeared in the end they met somewhere in the middle. They landed on the 62% increase over 6 years. That's according to people familiar with the talks who weren't authorized to speak.
NPR's Andrea Hsu reporting. There's still an outstanding issue, that of automation. The union says it doesn't want its workers replaced by technology. Both sides have agreed to extend their contract till mid-January and will go on negotiating. The death toll from Hurricane Helene has now risen to at least 210 people across southeastern states. Scores of people are still missing, including in Tennessee and North Carolina. Meanwhile, hospitals across the country may face a shortage of IV fluids because of storm damage. Flooding stopped production at a crucial production facility in North Carolina. From member station GBH in Boston, Craig Lamolt reports.
Baxter International supplies about 60% of IV fluids used in the U.S. The company says it's working to bring the flooded plant back online as soon as possible. In the meantime, Baxter is scaling back what it supplies to hospitals. Dr. Kimi Kobayashi of UMass Memorial Medical Center in Worcester says the hospital is trying to conserve the fluids it has.
It's hard to put a number on it, but if this goes into a couple weeks, I am sure that this will become very challenging if we cannot get, meaningful replacement of supply.
Several hospitals in Massachusetts say they'll continue normal clinical care for as long as they can. For NPR News, I'm Craig Lamolt in Boston.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz spoke at a virtual summit yesterday hosted by one of the nation's largest Muslim American voter mobilization groups. The appearance is part of an effort by the Harris campaign to win over Arab and Muslim Americans who are disenchanted with the Democratic Party's ongoing support for Israel. Minnesota Public Radio's Clay Masters has more.
The Harris-Walz campaign recently picked up the endorsement of Engage. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz gave a brief speech to the group in which he said the war in the Middle East must end now.
Our hearts are broken. The concern of the vice president and Harris and I, it's on our minds every day. The scale of death and destruction in Gaza is staggering and devastating. Tens of thousands of innocent civilians killed, families fleeing for safety over and over again.
Engage has a significant presence in the key battleground states of Michigan and Pennsylvania. For NPR News, I'm Clay Masters.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.